more girls here than anywhere in the world, and we play rock and roll. All we do now, we don't like add in. Some clubs will play a little bit of rock and roll. We play only rock and roll. I like the girls that come here.
All right, we're on Disco Acid Cult TV. It's a rare Saturday night here, but we're joined by. I'm gonna call you Dude. I'm dedicated to the on-screen names, so you're gonna be Dude tonight. Joined here by Dude, someone I actually know and have known for a while. Kind of is like the way I would put it. I think.
Give me 1 second. I'm having a little bit of technical difficulties.
Oh yeah, no, you're good.
Oh, let's see.
Is it saying anything? Okay, there you go.
There we go. Just trying to get the whole screen in order.
Oh yeah.
And there we go.
I never know how to help people because I've never been like the guest on this, so I don't know what it looks like on your end.
No, I got full screen right now. This is perfect.
Right on, hell yeah. All right, well, what was I saying? How long we've known each other? We come from the same music scene from back in high school. We both played in bands. I would describe it as we were both in our own circles. Like we never, I don't think intentionally hung out or like specifically hung out, but just like around shows at the time our bands would play. You and your band were actually like ahead of my time because you guys were into good stuff, like stuff that I now consider good stuff. I think me and your brother actually talked about it when I messaged him on accident, thinking it was you. You guys were you to me, I would say you guys liked Metallica, whereas me and my friends liked fucking Attack Attack. And we would have thought people that liked Metallica were lame. But now I'm like, now I listen to Metallica, and it's a very rare day when I go back and listen to like Attack Attack or Mice and Men. I can't really handle that stuff anymore all the time. I basically got older and realized my mom was totally right about music in general. She was always trying to tell me like, what you listen to sucks. You should be listening to this stuff. I was like, no, Mom, you don't know anything. And then I hit my early 20s and started realizing that the old stuff is much better. So I feel like you guys were influenced by the older stuff.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, how do I describe it? It's funny because we were all influenced by the older stuff, kind of along the same lines. Our parents kind of listened to the same eras, same kind of sub-genres at the time of that decade, but we all had our own interests in other bands besides The Point. I know definitely high school era, or when I was playing music, that was I was a lot into the thrash, especially Bay Area thrash, so like Exodus and Metallica, Megadeth, and all the other bands that aren't as big as those guys, but we all had our niche little differences. One was a big alternative guy. One was big into that 80s like synth pop and
New Wave.
New Wave, yeah.
Yeah.
And then we had another guy who was just pure thrash and like death metal, and kind of mixing all of what we hear all the time that gives us an idea in our mind. Really made in some interesting compositions together. And yeah, no, it's but when it comes to like Attack Attack and those kind of bands, I mean, I always had a guilty pleasure of listening to them every once in a while because there were some breakdowns and some bridge sections that I find really fucking interesting. But like my music maturity hit like right around about the same time, 2021. when I started getting into a lot of different artists that were popular for their time, like Steely Dan, and how much of an influence those guys are. They're the big ones. I felt like once I started enjoying their music, it was a no brainer. I was like, all right, young me wouldn't pay attention to these guys. Newer me, I can dig it and I can understand where the beauty comes from.
Oh yeah, and it's funny how maybe Steely Dan is this band for you. For me, it was probably the Beatles, but
Oh
there's
yeah,
always that one band where once you get into them, it's like the band that all of your favorite bands cite is their influence. So of course, pretty much every
right,
band cites the Beatles. But once I got into the Beatles, it was almost like everything made sense. I was like, oh, this is why pop music sounds the way it does. This is why rock music. Oh, like now everything makes sense. Once you get into the Beatles, you totally understand Kurt Cobain and Nirvana. And once you get into like the Cars is like a huge favorite of mine.
oh yeah,
Yeah, the new wave stuff. It's funny how you mentioned how you guys all had your own like favorite kind of subgenres and you would kind of put them together. That's always what my band in high school lacked because we all listened to the same stuff. And I think that's what's wrong with a lot of music today. It's actually a Rob Zombie quote where he talks about the importance of radio when he was a kid. He was like, when me and my friends were in school and when we played music and whatever, all of our influences were, of course, we all had like one Black Sabbath record to listen to. But then once you listen to the radio, you had to listen to ABBA and Michael Jackson. So now you're getting influence from ABBA and Michael Jackson. Whereas
right.
as every time I find a new band today, it's like, let me guess what your 5 biggest influences are. Oh, it's the 5 bands you sound exactly like because with streaming, that's all you listen to. Nobody is forced to take in any kind of other influence from anything.
Yeah, no, that's funny that you bring up the whole streaming thing in that aspect too, and the Rob Zombie quote. Um, as much as I am not a fan of AI nowadays and how it influences a lot of ways that we go about our art and media, um, Spotify introduced this AI DJ, and I gave it a try just for shits and giggles. And it's really weird at first because they speak to you by name, like, how's it going? I know you've been listening to this group a lot lately, so we're going to kick it off with them. And so they start with about 6 or 7 songs of that are constantly in your rotation. And then you have the DJ cutting in saying, we're going to switch it up to something else. And it's a toss up either between 7 more songs of a different genre or a different direction of how it's going than the previous 7 songs, or it might be 7 brand new songs that they think that you might be interested in based on multiple genres that you're listening to at the time. And I think that's pretty cool. I've discovered quite a bit of music that way too. But I mean, AI and music, that's a whole entire different story. And I can't wait till we get into that.
Yeah, the AI stuff is super weird. I think, like you said, pretty much, I would say overall net negative. I think it could do some damage. I mean, there are AI songs now that are charting, like they're on Billboard charts.
Right.
And it's like, oh, geez. I guess okay. Before I'll try to hold off on that one, but now I'm thinking about it. Well, I was gonna say it is a good idea. If only there was some other. But wasn't that kind of the whole idea of Pandora in the first place? It was you start off with one song and then it kind of guides you down a shuffle of what they think you'll like.
Right.
So I think they could do it without the AI. I was never opposed to like things like Pandora. I will say I have a hard time with like I never used Pandora. I'm pretty much like I have to push play on what I want to listen to. It actually sucks sometimes. I'm bad at listening to music in the car because I plug my phone in. And I'll sit there scrolling through songs and albums, and I'm like, dude, you're fucking driving. You need to stop scrolling. Just push play on something. Okay, real basic question. Back down the old music in general route. And I know this one is hard because obviously the answer is just whatever you feel like for the day, and it could change at any time. But right now in this given moment, if you have to pick, what's your favorite decade for not even just rock, but I guess just music in general?
Ooh. That is tough. I'm not even going to say for the day because every day that I listen to music, I'm always jumping around from something as early as the 40s to something as late as now. And if I were to pick my favorite decade out of there, I'm just going to pick a half decade of one and half decade of the other combined together. We'll call that a decade's time span. It'd be 65 to 75.
Okay. The 60s was one of the first ones I went to. Okay, so for right now today, my answer is the 80s. And
Okay.
I even have like the path that I went down, so
that's why it's hard.
Yeah. When I was in my last band, the last real band I was in, I was like 19 years old at this time. We were at band practice, and you know, you're at practice, you just, between songs, you're dicking around. I started playing Smells Like Teen Spirit, just like, you know, just diddling on my guitar. And our drummer did the fill, and we played the intro. We played the first verse and then the chorus, and then we stopped and we got back to work. But right after that, our drummer was like, "Oh yeah, you know, Nirvana's great." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I fucking love Nirvana." Dude, I didn't know anything other than the singles at the time. I was just kind of talking out of my ass, just like, yeah, I fucking love Nirvana. And then after band practice, you know, we went about whatever. And I went home, and for some reason I was just like, you know what? You just told your drummer that you love Nirvana. Like, you need to back it up now and get into Nirvana. So I got on my laptop and I just started watching Nirvana videos on YouTube, and I stayed up all night just watching any video you can find of Kurt breaking his guitar on stage. I just watched.
Oh man.
Yeah, it was just like mesmerized all night. So that starts my like love of Nirvana, which then leads me to, you know, Hole, Mudhoney, L7, Alice in Chains, Babes in Toyland. I do the whole 90s Seattle thing. And I was obsessed with that for like all of my early 20s. Then mid 20s, it was actually right when The Dirt came out, that Motley Crue movie on Netflix.
Oh yeah.
That came out right around the time I was coincidentally getting into hair metal. I got really into like Poison, Motley Crue, Warrant. Cinderella is probably my favorite of, I think they're like the most underrated, but I see a lot of love for them on the internet nowadays. So mid 20s, I was into that. And then after that, I funny enough, I got really into Charles Manson's music. So then,
oh yeah.
So then that led me to the 60s in general, like the Hollies, the Beatles, you know, all that good stuff. And then from there, I went to the 70s, because then I got into horror movies and Rob Zombie horror movies, which then led me to his music, which then led me to everything he likes is from the 70s. So then after that, some odd years later, I went to 80s because I got into 80s horror movies. And then I thought, well, I'll check out 80s music. And then I got into the Cars and New Order. And of course, back into the hair metal stuff again. This time I'm on like everything 80s. It's not just like I fucking love Madonna, you know, like early Madonna and stuff like that. Stuff that in high school, like my friends would have made fun of. You know, I couldn't listen to Madonna in high school. My friends would be like, dude, that's lame as shit. Like, why are you listening to that? And it is funny how when you're like young, you care about like, oh, my friends can't hear me listening to this, you know?
Right. And then if you were to tell your younger self now, you'd be like, nah, don't give a fuck what they say. Like, listen to what you want to listen to. Fuck it.
Oh yeah. If I got to travel back in time and tell my younger self, like, hey, you need to listen to, God, who does that song? Brent, was something Carlisle, that Heaven is a Place on Earth song.
Oh yeah.
I think it's like Brenda Carlisle.
I think so. I'm not too sure. It's when it comes to the one-hit wonders of the 80s, or like the big hits that you always hear. That's where I lose track of a lot of names. I get confused one person with the other. And
there's a lot. It is Belinda Carlisle too. I was able to look.
Belinda Carlisle. All right, yeah.
But my younger self would challenge my current day self to a fight, being like, "No, I'm not going to listen to Belinda Carlisle." But I guess what's also weird about that is we were really into like Taylor Swift, and we actually did a cover of "Call Me Maybe" by Carly Rae Jepsen. But that was kind of a quirky thing for us back then. But
nothing wrong with that.
Nowadays, I just like everything, even like pop music. So you played in like a metal band, is what I would have described you guys as back in the day. What are the guilty pleasures, even back then, if there were any, and like today? Like, are there any like like, you know, like Madonna type stuff that people would assume a member of a metal band does not listen to, which is funny because everyone from any heavy band knows they all listen to like
that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess for me, it was like Prince, Elton John, especially Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. That album is a certified fucking banger. I'm trying to think. Eddie Money.
Oh yeah, that's good stuff.
I mean, I could name people all day, but yeah, those are like the three that come to my mind that I was listening to like for a good while. One of my favorite songs is When Doves Cry. That's a really fucking great song. Like you were to tell somebody what was the 80s like, you play that song.
Yeah. Those are the best ones from the 80s. Those like anthemic pop songs that people say, like, give me one song to describe the decade. You pull that one out. I always think of Nothing But a Good Time by Poison. To me is like a defining 80s song, you know. I always felt like the decades in terms of music, they really seem to go like the 60s was kind of happy and cheerful. The 70s was a little darker. You know, you got like some Southern rock in there. And then the 80s was very happy and good times. And then the 90s was very dark, especially early 90s. And then early 2000s was kind of happy and party time. And then ever since like 2010, everything's kind of just been like there's not really one defining.
No, it's all been a fluctuation, like ups and downs and it hills and valleys.
Yeah, I've heard somebody say, and I actually think I completely agree. They basically talk about how if you took somebody from 1985, just grabbed a person off the street in 85 and dropped them in 1975, they would look like a fucking alien. Everybody would be like, what is this guy wearing? Whereas if you took someone from today and you dropped them in like 2016, I don't think he would look too out of place. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's not too much of a difference in terms of like
style. A defining style.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can say that because even in the 2000s there were certain styles that I could see, but 2010s and up, yeah, it's all hills and valleys and very different from one another. And I think that's the whole thing is everything is so short spanned that like 3 months from now, like half the things in our pop culture are going to be way more popular and put out what was popular 3 months prior, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, nothing seems like it's made to last anymore. I always think about
No, not at all.
When you go into like a Great Clips, you know, you need like a cheap haircut. What are they playing on the speakers, dude? They're playing Prince and they're playing Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
They're not usually playing like Katy Perry from when we were in school. I mean,
grocery stores too.
Oh yeah, grocery stores. It's all, dude. I worked at a grocery outlet, probably like some odd years ago, and that's when I got into like, you know, I was always into like Fleetwood Mac and like the singles and whatever, but that's when I got into like the deeper stuff because they played a shit ton of Fleetwood Mac on the speakers and they played a shit ton of, you know, just like random rock and disco tracks from the 70s. And I'm like, yeah, everything they play is like from the 70s up to the 90s. They don't really play anything from like 2012 or 13. That stuff's not really made to last anymore.
Yeah, there are so few songs that I feel like can stand that test of time. But yeah, nowadays, I generously say about 90% are not made to last.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. And that might take me into, I think like the main question I like to ask people when we talk about music. Shout out Grocery Outlet from Pocket Chat. Dude, Grocery Outlet is an underrated gem, dude. You need to go down like the toy. There's like that weird toy aisle with like, they'll just have like a remote control robot toy or something that's like badass. Dude, Grocery Outlets rule. Okay, so the main question I like to ask people about music, though, especially rock and roll people, what do you think about rock and roll today? Like, do you like it? Do you dislike it? You know, like let loose, basically.
Okay. Here's what I think. And it's funny that we were talking about previous decades. what I've been seeing is a lot of revivals in bands that haven't spoke to each other within like a decade or more. You see them going on tour, and then once everybody responds to that, and they're like, "Hell yeah! Like we love to see you guys, and it's great that you guys are finally back together after 10 or 15 years." They get the idea of making a new album, and I feel like a lot of the rock and roll today is there are diamonds in the rough, but mainly the only thing that I see popular and I see hit the charts are bands that are either still formed from a decade, decades ago, or bands coming back together and doing like a revival album, or bands saying this is the end of our journey and doing their last albums. Like one that comes to mind is Megadeth. Megadeth came out with their last ever album back at the tail end of January, and for the most part, I've listened to Megadeth from like first album to last album, and kind of the same thing as Metallica. There were a lot of highs, and then there were a lot of lows, and then they get back together, or they fix whatever was going on and have a bunch of highs to the very end. With Megadeth's last album, all the songs that they've put out, I feel like completely takes a shit on Metallica's 72 Seasons, which is their last release. And I'm a Metallica fan through and through over Megadeth. So for me to say that, I was blown away. And ironically, they had a bonus track on that album, which was Metallica's Ride the Lightning. And a lot of people that don't really know the whole lore behind the Megadeth Metallica rivalry, they wonder why Ride the Lightning? Why are they covering this particular Metallica track? It's because it was a song that Dave Mustaine wrote when he was in the band for Metallica before Kill 'Em All ever came out.
Yeah, I saw I listened to it. Of course, I had to listen to it. I saw a really good hell yeah, Devil Horns in the chat. Should I lost track after looking at the Devil Horns? I had to listen to it, of course, and I thought obviously it's good. I think it's pretty good. I think to me, my only complaint was recording quality, which I know is just me sounding like an old person. You listen to the original Ride the Lightning, it's obviously the amps are all mic'd up.
Everything's rougher.
Yeah, I saw a great review on Instagram comparing the tracks, the original Metallica. And of course, the guy was saying, it's unfair to compare them. One's from, early 80s, one's from 2026. But the original one, yeah, what's up, Get Lit? We're talking about rock and roll today. The original one, it's very obviously mic'd up drums, mics on the guitar amps. What the guy pointed out the most was when you listen to Kirk's guitar solo versus Dave's guitar solo, Dave's is obviously plugged straight into a computer. It's very sharp. You can hear it, but Kirk really sounds like you can picture him in a room surrounded by mics, and the sound is just booming out of him, and that's not fair to compare like I said, the recording quality, I guess, but all in all, it was a good cover. Dave did a good job. The fact that he's like fucking 64, just came out of throat cancer and is singing, Metallica.
You can definitely hear it in his voice, man. That's why I'm kind of glad that they had this album to say that it was their last, because I feel like if they were to stretch it out for one more album, it wouldn't be done, or knock on wood, it doesn't happen. But that Dave passes away, because he's getting there, man, especially like you said with the throat cancer and shit.
Yeah, and it is such a good thing. It's one of those things that sounds very cynical to admit, but it is a good thing when guys retire, when they still sound good. I always say like halfway jokingly, but also halfway not, acknowledging that it's very cynical and selfish to say it. I always say we're lucky musically that Kurt Cobain died when he did, because we never had to see him, get to his 60s and start sounding bad.
Yeah.
Like
unfortunately.
I said, cynical, halfway joking. Obviously, no, we all wanted Kurt to live on and live a good life. But like I'm saying, musically, we never had to see Kurt do the Motley Crue signing contracts for the last tour and then touring 20 more times and, you know, getting fat. No offense to Vince Neil. I give the most credit to Vince Neil because people always hate on Vince Neil. And I just say, you know what? Just go back and listen to Motley Crue in the 80s and like appreciate what this man did for us. I get it. He looks like a bowling ball now. He sounds bad. But appreciate what he did. Axl Rose, I give him credit too. Yes, he sounds like fucking Mickey Mouse today, but that man shredded his fucking voice for everyone's entertainment. Like, he gave us the best of what he could. And yeah, he sounds like Mickey Mouse nowadays, but that's fine. Just listen to Appetite and just appreciate that is what I usually say.
Oh man, yeah, Appetite, or even Use Your Illusion 1 and 2, because they're certified bangers on there too. One of my favorite Guns N' Roses songs is a song called Coma.
Yeah.
That is a great, like, for me, I really appreciate songs that tell a story, and that is a whole fucking story right there.
Yeah. No, I like Guns after Appetite for Destruction. Obviously, Appetite is the peak. It's 10 out of 10.
It is the peak.
I'm one of those guys that I always say, again, I'll bring up Rob Zombie. Rob Zombie is like one of my favorites, so I always bring him up a lot. But so Rob Zombie's putting out a new album in like 2 weeks, The Great Satan.
Yep,
and
I pre-ordered it. Yep.
Yeah, and you'll see a lot of fans, you know, they're constantly going, "Oh, it's not going to sound as good as Hellbilly Deluxe," and I'm like, how can you expect it to? Like, everyone peaks. Like, you realize every artist peaks in their 20s usually, or 30s. Yeah, Hellbilly Deluxe and Sinister Urge are the best 2 Rob Zombie albums. But everything after that, there's still really good songs on all those albums. Are they all 10 out of 10s? No, of course not. But there's, you know, his last album, the Lunar Injection album, Crow Killer Blues, was fucking a banger.
Oh, that's a great song.
Yeah, it's like doom metal as shit. King Freak, great track. Smoke Your Grass, Shake Your Ass, Cemetery. You know, there's good stuff on all these albums. You know, even Metallica. Get Lit actually has the same. My mom is one of these people. My mom is way more hardcore than me, so she loves Metallica up until the Black Album. She doesn't like the Black Album or anything after. And I get it, but to me, I'm like, well, I can still appreciate, like, of course, fuck, I draw so many blanks as soon as I go live. Injustice for All, Blackened. Of course, Blackened is, to me, like, just fucking peak Metallica, but I can still appreciate stuff from the Black Album and everything that came after.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that kind of ties me into a question I have for you. What would you consider your top 5 albums of all time?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
No particular order. Top 5 albums.
So I'll try to rephrase it and see if this is more so what you mean. Are you talking like Trapped on an Island? You get 5 albums?
Yep, that you can listen to all the way through and you will never get tired of it.
First and foremost, I know right off the bat, Heartbeat City by the Cars from 1984.
Great album.
This is going to get into like sentimental for me. When I was a child, band that changed my life. I know it's emo. We're talking early 2000s niche emo, but The Used, In Love and Death. Probably In Utero by Nirvana.
Great album.
It sounds lame as shit, but I have a hard time. You know, I talked about my love for 90s Seattle alternative and all that. When I got into that, I was with an ex-girlfriend. I was with her for like 5 years, and we got into that stuff together. So now I'm real sappy about that shit. It's hard for me to listen to, like, you know, all the 90s stuff, but I still love it. So yeah, I put In Utero on there.
You got 2 more. You got to think about that wisely.
Gatlit says Mac Miller. I never got into. I'm talking to a Mexican chick in LA who loves Mac Miller. Gatlit, you're gonna have to help me get into him sometime so I can talk.
Mac Miller Faces. Oh yeah, I can see that being. Yeah, that's a great album.
Okay, so you like him too. See, I never got him. Maybe I'm just on the wrong songs when I try.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on what kind of style that you're trying to get from him, because it seems like that he was one of those people that went through his phases when he was recording, from his early work to his middle work to work near the end of his death.
Okay. I will say for me, and I know I still have 2 albums left. I did just think of one, but really quick for me when it comes to hip hop and rap, I'm very stuck on. I like what they I guess they call horrorcore, which I hate that term. I grew up.
Okay, no, I see. Yeah, like
And when I say that, I do not mean like ICP. I'm talking like Brother Lynch Hung.
I was just gonna say Brother Lynch Hung. Yeah,
Yeah, I grew up with my uncle listening. He listened to a lot of stuff I was listening to way too
what
young.
about Bizarre?
I used to call it murder rap when I was a kid because because it's all about killing people. Like that's what I thought. So like Brother
Murder
Lynch.
rap.
There's a song I hate to say by Ice Cube and Dr. Dre, but Natural Born Killers, like that. Like
That's
that
a
really,
great song. Yeah.
yeah, that like dark rap stuff. That's that dark vibe. Of course, I can't think of the other rappers on top of my head. Drew Down. That's not really a murder rap guy, but that's more about pimping. That's like Bay Area shit.
Yeah, like Mac Dre.
Yeah. So I'm very stuck in that era when it comes to hip hop and rap, but I do still like some new stuff. When it comes to hip hop and rap, but okay, my other 2 albums, it'd be a hard choice between Hellbilly Deluxe or Sinister Urge by Rob Zombie. I would probably go Hellbilly. Actually, you know what? No, fuck it. I'm gonna go all the way back to Astro Creep 2000, White Zombie. That's the 4th album I'm bringing. Yeah, that's 4. That's Heartbeat City, In Utero, In Love and Death. We'll do Astro Creep. I like Astro Creep. I know it's a tough choice between Astro Creep and Las Exorcisto, but I like Astro Creep. And then fucking A. What have I been listening to lately? I might have to go with this is one that could change at any time. I'll just throw it in there because I've been listening to it lately, but Hysteria, Def Leppard.
That's a great album too.
I feel like that's when they really nailed mixing pop with the metal thing. Like
that was definitely the signature Def Leppard sound. If you were to be questioned by somebody that didn't know Def Leppard and like what do they sound like? Hysteria. That's like peak Def Leppard.
I know, to never cite anything from Reddit because Reddit is like a wasteland. But
is he right? Yep.
In the hair metal subreddit, which is a ridiculous place, but there's always a debate. A lot of the Def Leppard fans don't like Hysteria because that's when they got, poppy and anthemic, Pour Some Sugar on Me. They like the early stuff when it was closer to metal, but I like the poppy stuff. I'm a pop. Like I said, the Beatles, I consider the Beatles the greatest of all time because they like created the pop song formula. So I'm a pop guy at heart. Before I got into like Of Mice and Men and Attack, me and my scene kid friends, dude, we were into Never Shout Never and Forever the Sickest Kids. And,
oh yeah, I remember all of them.
Oh yeah, like the bedroom pop era, MySpace, like that. So I've always loved pop music at heart. I consider Nirvana damn near a pop band. Like, if you can replace Dave Grohl's drums with a drum machine, and Kurt was a pop writer. But okay, 5 albums to you too. What are you going with?
All right, I already know my 3 right off the bat. These would be my top 3 in no particular order. Are Injustice for All.
Yes.
City of Evil, Avenged Sevenfold.
Also, yes.
Cowboys from Hell, Pantera.
Dude, I fucking love Pantera.
Pantera is one of my favorite bands. Dimebag and his brother were fucking amazing.
Pantera is somehow to this day to me like still just the heaviest. Like they sound like machinery. I've never heard music that sounds like machinery like they do.
Especially on what's one of their albums? Great Southern Trendkill.
One of the underrated ones.
Yeah, that was like them at their. I feel like it was them at their heaviest. Like that was the heaviest Pantera you can get, and you have some gems on there like Floods. The Underground of America that ties into Sandblasted Skin right after is like one of the greatest transitions, one of the heaviest transitions I heard in between 2 songs. But so yeah, Justice, City of Evil, Cowboys from Hell. And I know this one's about to sound cliche, but hear me out. Dark Side of the Moon, Pink Floyd.
Hell yeah.
And mainly it's because I live where I can see the Northern Lights every now and then. And that the last time that I'd seen the Northern Lights in full effect, I had some little shrooms with me, and I took them and went to go out there for like 3 or 4 hours, just staring at the lights pulsating. And I was trying to find a album to listen to that I didn't want to skip through, and I knew that Dark Side had a couple of songs that I knew already. So I gave it a shot, and I was like, "Oh, this is kind of cliche. Ha ha ha! This guy is listening to Dark Side." But when all those three in unison together came together, I had a fucking experience. I felt like I was just staring into the face of God. And it made me appreciate the album and the story that ties into it. But people could say the same thing about The Wall by them, because The Wall's another good one. If I like, that's my one that I would have to decide one or the other. But it's going to be leaning towards Dark Side of the Moon, especially for cultural reference too, with all the people saying you can sync up Dark Side with certain movies, and it plays out in its own entire story.
Yeah.
And then number 5, I would have to say, I can't think of the name at the top of my head, but it's Ghost's last album that they just came out with.
Here, I can find it. It's Ghost.
Yeah, it's Ghost.
Here, let me pull up their discography. I'll also get lit in chat. I am going to read your list here in a second. Skeleton?
Yep, that's the one.
Okay. I've never listened to Ghost, honestly.
You know what? There's a joke behind them that I've seen in memes every now and then where it's like, you want somebody to get into metal, like that's like the softer side. Like the guy doesn't really scream or anything, but he wears like black and white face paint, wears like a Pope outfit or a bishop outfit. But they have a lot of like 80s influence in a lot of their songs. And that's a song where I could see a lot of 80s influence. It takes a couple listens to get used to it. But once I just started saying fuck it and playing the album through and through, I started liking the whole build up and come down and build up and like ending finale with the album.
Okay. Yeah, fucking A. I know they're like huge nowadays. I really have no excuse to not check them out. I might have to do that.
You probably have heard one of their songs.
I've heard that clips of that viral one.
Mariana Cross.
Yeah.
And that was like a whole thing too, because when I listened to that song and I didn't know about Ghost, I thought it was an 80s song.
Oh yeah.
Like straight up. And I was like, wait, these guys, this song came out in like 2008, 2010. What the fuck?
All right, get lit. Your 5 albums you mentioned, Faces by Mac Miller, Dizzy Wright,
Smoke Out Conversations. That's a good one.
Number 3, when you say the Cars album, I know you mean the debut. That's funny. That's like the big debate or actually not even a debate, in most like Cars fan circles, like Facebook groups and subreddits that I'm in. Most people, and of course the Cars debut album is a perfect album too, but most people, that's their favorite. My favorite, it just happens to be Heartbeat City, because I love that 80s new wave sound that I feel like they really dove headfirst into. I know the Cars, some people say they started new wave. Yeah, I think that is, I tend to think that's true with their debut album, but I just think all the synths, like I said, in 84, they just went fucking head first into like, I mean, there's whole songs with no guitar, barely any guitar at least on that album. But of course, the Cars debut is also a perfect album. Number 4 is the actual, I'm assuming you mean the Avenged Sevenfold, they're self-titled.
The one that came right after City of Evil. That's also a good one too.
Yeah.
That took me a couple full listens to actually appreciate some of the songs that don't get the amount of light. That's actually a hard one. That's getting me to reconsider. But no, City of Evil was my introduction to Avenged Sevenfold, and that one was an album that I happened to listen to all the way through. It was always in my boom box with the 6-disc CD player growing up, and I remember as soon as that album started playing, I would just leave. I would not, or leave the what do you call it, skip button alone. I would not skip forward. I would just let it play all the way through.
Yeah. I would also personally go City of Evil, but I also do love the self-titled. I mean, that's you got Critical Acclaim, Almost Easy, Afterlife, A Little Piece of Heaven. Me and my friends loved that album too, but Backcountry alone was like, dude, the guitar solo in Backcountry is like, if you told me
It's amazing.
If you told me you're trapped on an island and you can only listen to one guitar solo ever, like that's all you get, I might pick the Backcountry guitar solo. Like, it was that crazy.
Oh yeah, and then like another one off of there that I appreciated that not a lot of people listen to is a song called Sidewinder.
Oh yeah.
The outro to that song, where it's just 2 minutes of dual acoustic guitar solos, is just fucking beautiful. Peak chef's kiss.
Yeah, they were a great guitar duo. Probably the first band I got into where like the guitar was like the big, like the main, like I never became a shredder, and I regret not becoming a shredder when I was playing guitar, but I always did still look up to Sinister just because like, dude, that guy fucking shreds.
Oh yeah.
And then another great shredder, of course,
Purple Rain
5.
soundtrack. Hell yeah. That's exactly. Purple Rain is just a great album in general.
Yeah, Prince is one of those guys that just just the musicianship of him, like everyone knows him. I feel like it's kind of like the opposite, like the opponent to Michael Jackson. And I think people think of him sometimes as just like a pop star, but then you like actually get into him and you're like, oh, he's actually like also one of the greatest guitar players of all time, and just like knew how to do everything. But yeah, the dueling guitars of Avenged Sevenfold was always great.
I'm a sucker for guitars that it's hard to explain when you put it into a song, because you can use it in so many different ways. But I think that's what's beautiful about it is I like to use Tesla as an example of this. They had a system of guitar playing, what is known as mess and finesse. You had somebody that was a lot sloppier, and then if they were playing together and taking like 4 bars here, then 4 bars here, 4 bars there, 4 bars there, you'd have your mess, and then finesse, which would be the more technical scales. And I feel like that to be a great guitar player, or one that I see that influence a lot of people, you have to have that combination of technicality and soul, because I feel like if you delve into one or delve into the other wholly without learning or utilizing that component, then the solos are subpar to par at most. Like they're oh, that's pretty cool to listen to, but is it totally memorable? No, because that's just a basic scale. Or no, he's just playing like 5 notes, just being as simple as possible, but you could hear the soul and the bend in each note. So yeah, there needs to be like a mess and finesse factor if you can combine the both, that I love in a lot of guitar players.
Yeah, I definitely agree with really quick, Get Lit, rate your top 5. Get Lit, for me personally, your top 5 is crap. I would never pick any of those albums on my top 5. But actually, no, I wouldn't say that, because you put the Cars debut in there. That would be one that I might pick. And I'm not saying crap is an insult. I'm saying it in the way that I think it's impossible. It's impossible to rate someone else's, like, what 5 albums would you take to an island with you? Because I'm sure, yeah, Lit, I'm sure you wouldn't take In Love and Death by The Used. I acknowledge that's kind of a niche one. That's just, for me, that's just like The Used was like the band that I discovered in 6th grade. They like changed my life. So that's, to me.
Oh yeah, they're great.
Yeah. I hold on to them like that. But like I said, I don't think you can rate another person's top 5, because it's not, it's not like it's just way too subjective of a thing. It's like, what albums would you want to be stuck with for the rest of your life? Clip Fusions, I'm going to be honest, I feel like you're some kind of spam account or something. I can't really tell. This is great. No one's ever gotten on here and told me that I'm great before. I know you have to be fake, but I hope you're a pretty girl if this is a real person.
Oh, Lord.
What was I going to... Okay, we were talking about... We did the top 5 albums. Oh, the Mess and Finesse. I feel like my favorite example of that is Kurt Cobain and Dave Grohl.
Yeah,
Dave Grohl,
absolutely.
the reason Nirvana didn't hit it big until Dave Grohl is because they had Chad Channing, and he's a great drummer in his own right, but he's very punk and very sloppy and messy. But Kurt on guitar is very punk and sloppy and messy. So what that means is you need a machine of a drummer to hold it down. That's the success of Nirvana. And when you watch all the videos of Kurt going off playing guitar gibberish for 10 minutes, you realize Dave and Kurt are playing the same beat for like 10 minutes. Like they're holding it down while Kurt is off in fucking Neverland, you know, doing whatever. But they need that machine drummer to hold it down. Dave is the finesse and Kurt is the mess. And when you get those two together, they work well. You can't have two messes. You know, that sounds like shit. And you can't have two finesses because that's just kind of boring, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. But it's funny that you bring up Kurt Cobain. Have you been looking at the news lately?
Yeah, I see that it's the his death is popular. It's trending again.
A group of independent investigators that have been going through the files one last time, or just wanted to reopen it and bring it to the police's attention. Now have, I mean, I looked through their proof, and it's very irrefutable that it was a staged incident.
Oh,
And I mean, you hear stories all the, like there was I don't know why I can't think of his name at the moment. There was one investigator that was with the Seattle Police Department during that time and was working on his case, who later on did his own independent investigation. He ended up coming across different accounts of people that were in other bands at the time during the Seattle music phase. And there were a couple people in particular that Courtney Love tried going up to and negotiating a deal where they would get paid $30,000 to take care of Kurt Cobain and stage his incident.
when it comes to the Kurt death thing,
I mean, let the man rest in peace, but man.
Oh yeah, no, of course. For me, so I've I obviously have been down every Kurt Cobain rabbit hole possible, being such a big fan when I was. On an average day, I tend to lean toward he did it, the official narrative. But I'm not like feet planted firm. Anytime anybody brings up like the other stuff,
right?
I my ears peak. I'm like, oh, that is odd. There's stories of Callie DeWitt, like the male nanny that Kurt had, who by the way was like a 16-year-old that Courtney was fucking and giving heroin to.
Yeah.
There's a lot of weird things. I kind of hate when the official narrative people will say, oh, people blame Courtney Love because it's misogyny. No, it's not. It's because as much as I love Courtney Love, I am a fan and I do love Hole. I do think she was like a musical genius. She was a pretty terrible fucking person. Everybody knows this. Like, let's be honest. There's the weird stuff. Like her dad was like a CIA guy, and I don't want to get too deep now, but he was like
right.
Grateful Dead's manager and made acid and was giving Courtney claims was giving her acid when she was like a little kid. There's a lot of weird stuff. So like I said, I do tend to go just on an average day. Like if I was just in Walmart buying ice cream and somebody walked up and said, what happened to Kurt Cobain? I would say, oh, he took himself out. But then as soon as I start, like I did watch Soaked in Bleach. I've gotten into a couple of YouTubers that do like deep dives on the story.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird shit. And it does make a lot of sense. I tend to lean toward maybe even more so than just Courtney did it. There's a great video on YouTube. Let me actually see what it's called really quick, just because I'm curious if you've seen it. It's called The Music Industry's Darkest Secret. It's by a channel called Barely Socialable. When you click on it, you have to be logged in because you have to be 18 or older to watch it. It's all about how rock stars have like a lower life expectancy than like the most dangerous jobs in America. And it gets into the idea of a rock star is more valuable to the record label dead than he is alive. So I kind of get into the idea of, because Kurt wanted to quit. Kurt was done with Nirvana.
Right.
If Kurt quits and retires and starts talking all this shit about Geffen Records, and I'm not saying Geffen Records killed Kurt Cobain. I guess I don't really know where I'm going with it, but if Kurt quits and retires and goes off and just starts painting and lives in a castle in Scotland and, sits around and does heroin and becomes a sculptor like he wanted to do, that's not going to make a lot of money for the record label. But when he dies and becomes a fucking icon, people are still making money off of Kurt Cobain today because of how things went. So there's a lot of different ways you could go down with it that all make a lot of sense. I haven't looked into any, I've seen the headlines and it's been trending again, but I haven't looked into anything that these researchers have posted or talked about.
It's worth a dive. I mean, like you said, you go down the rabbit holes. That's definitely a rabbit hole to go into because you start getting into possible theories and ways that they may have gone about it. But yeah, that's one of those cases where it's it's all up in the air. Who really knows? Who really knows?
Yeah, it is super weird. There's this guy now coming out doing YouTube videos. I don't know if you've seen him. He's got one arm. I can't remember his name. Okay, so then I'm sure you've seen him if you already remember the one arm or whatever. Yeah, some punk musician claims he was there at the house when Kurt was killed. And that's the hard part about this story is that, no offense, but I look at that guy and I'm like, okay, is this guy really a reliable narrator? This guy's got fucking one arm because he had to get one arm cut off from how much drugs he did, and that's not to discount anyone that ever did. I mean, I was a drug addict in my 20s, so I hate to say it that way, but that's the hard thing about it is all the people that, remember El Duce? It's brother, how, yes, it is. How am I supposed to believe this guy? And that's the hard part about the story is that there's so many just unreliable narrators in the story. And it's dude, I just want somebody reliable. There was the detective that Tom, I think it was Tom something, the original guy from all the stuff that Courtney hired to find Kurt. And there's pretty much him. Everyone else you find now is either a YouTuber or a guy with one arm. So I am glad that there are, like you said, actual independent researchers now that are getting it trending again, because at least they're reliable voices that can talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's funny. You said El Duce, and now for some reason, GG Allin comes to mind.
What do you think about GG Allin?
What's that?
What do you think about GG Allin as a whole?
Oh my, he was a crazy motherfucker, man. He was as real as they come. Someone says punk music. I don't think anyone can match his energy or anything like that.
Dude, I hate punk music. I'm not a big fan of any punk. I like the Ramones, actually. I like the Ramones a lot.
Who doesn't like the Ramones?
And I love the Misfits. But that's
Misfits, yep.
But those are maybe two of the most mainstream punk bands of all time. I don't like the Sex Pistols. I don't like the Clash. I don't, I don't like anything about, and I don't want to
not
talk
about
shit.
Dead Kennedys.
Yeah, no, don't like. I liked California Uber Alice, but that's also
that's a pretty cool song.
Yeah, but it was just in a Tony Hawk game when I was in high school, so I liked it.
Oh yeah.
So I don't want to, talk shit about. Well, I mean, I talk shit all the time on this channel, but I've never been into the punk anything aside from just being I guess contrarian. But that movie Sid and Nancy.
Yeah.
When I watched that movie, it shows Sid and his buddies jumping on people's cars and yelling oh, these guys seem like fucking assholes. I would hate punk people in real life, but I do think the world needs another GG Allin really bad right now. I didn't like any of his music except for his cover of Carmelita. That's one of the best.
That's a great song. Yep.
Yeah, that's the only song of his I like. But the world needs a GG Allin today. Someone has to rise up and start throwing their shit at people. It's just someone needs to take on this responsibility because we really need it.
I mean, you got people that are close enough, but I don't think they could, like I said, match his level.
Yeah, I also wonder if it would even be enough, because I also always talk about, I love Marilyn Manson.
Right.
Back in the day, there was one Marilyn Manson and he was like the devil. But then today, there's probably 1,000 Marilyn Mansons playing shows across the country right now, and it's no one bats an eye. Like nothing is even really controversial anymore. So I wonder what somebody like if somebody did come out and start throwing their shit at people like Gigi, would it even be like on the news tomorrow? Would it even matter?
I think somebody at his extremity, I think something like that would matter. Like you said, the world needs a Gigi Allen. So someone needs to go against the grain in that regard. But I think the big thing nowadays too, like you said, there's 1,000 people that are like Marilyn Manson playing across America, playing across the world, and nobody bats an eye. I think it's because during the time that Marilyn Manson was, gaining popularity, a lot of that stuff that he did was considered, forbidden, taboo. And nowadays, a lot of that stuff is in the norm.
Yeah. Yeah, I almost wonder what taboo would even be now. I've talked about that before. Like I
the shit everyone could agree with. Like,
yeah. Well, I've said this before that it's hard to like word it properly because I'm not trying to take any side, and I fucking hate talking about politics at all. So I'm not.
Same.
Don't worry, I'm not getting into that. But one of my theories kind of is that, in the 80s, the reason that movies like Silent Night, Deadly Night,
that's a great movie. I love number 2 just because of the garbage day scene.
Oh yeah. Part of the reason that movie became so iconic and like Motley Crue Shout at the Devil and Ozzy stuff became so iconic was because of the Satanic Panic. Because when Christian conservatives, and again Marilyn Manson, when Christian conservatives came out and like outraged about this stuff, it was taken very seriously. Like the media took it seriously, and the parental advisory sticker was like the best thing to happen to music. But nowadays, and this is where I get kind of caught up. I say nowadays Christian conservatism is not taken very seriously. Like when a Christian conservative comes out and complains about the Barbie movie, mainstream media really just laughs about it and scoffs at it. And where I get caught up is like, I'm not trying to say that we should be taking people like Ben Shapiro or Laura Ingraham seriously. I think they're goofy. But at the same time, it's like, well, there needs to be the yin and yang. There used to be like there was Christian conservatism that was mainstream and taken seriously. And then there was Motley Crue, and they kind of pushed against each other, and it made Motley Crue more iconic. But today, nothing's really iconic because it's like
nothing's taken seriously.
Yeah, and nothing's really like rebellious anymore. You know what I mean? Like Sabrina Carpenter's on stage, half naked, like getting put in an Eiffel Tower between
nobody bats an eye.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, some conservative YouTubers will talk about it, but everyone just kind of laughs at them and, says whatever. Sam Smith is dressed up like a fat devil lady at award shows, and no one, it's just not a big deal. Like the mainstream kind of just encourages it. I think about the norm back in the day when Rammstein did that crazy shit. Did you ever like Rammstein? I never got into them.
You know what? I got into them, and I'm still into them. They put out some pretty solid music. I was gonna say there was one in particular that I really like. I think it's called Engel. Just because it's got that whistle that's going through it. It's your typical industrial metal for its time.
Yeah, right here too. Ice Spice is shaking
ass. Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's totally okay. Nobody bats an eye. Some people may do, but nobody's taken seriously.
Yeah, and it's like that should be controversial. And I think Ice Spice would probably also benefit if it was controversial, because she would get that Motley Crue Shout at the Devil effect. She would get that, but that doesn't happen anymore. No one takes conservatism seriously, which, like I said, I don't know how to word properly because I'm not a fucking conservative. I'm not a fucking liberal either. I'm like, I just
down the middle.
I just kind of stay back and laugh at all these people arguing.
Pull out the popcorn, pull out the folding chair.
Yeah, I make fun of everybody. Yeah. It's equal rights. This is the most inclusive channel of all time. I will talk shit to anybody and everybody. Yeah, there's just, there's no way to like make a name for yourself doing anything controversial. Like nowadays, being controversial it sucks, but you kind of have to be like a political commentator. I don't who wants to do that.
But at that point, you're only controversial to like half the people.
Exactly.
Yeah, because there's always two sides to everything and anything, and there's always a good amount of each people on each side nowadays, especially. So there's like even being, down the middle, just kind of it doesn't really instigate anything. It doesn't make everybody turn their heads. Only half the people would be turning their heads if you go one way or the other. So I guess it's more of a fact of thinking outside the box, maybe.
My actual favorite question of all time: do you think rock and roll is dead today?
That's a sad reality. Sorta.
Yeah.
I wouldn't give a definitive yes, but I wouldn't say no either. Because, like I said, the only people that are actually making their impact nowadays when it comes to the rock and roll scene are you got your one in a billion independent artists that just makes it above the others, but then they're forgot. Like we talked about earlier, one thing that's popular 3 months later is not going to be popular. So you either got that, or you got reunions, or you got people writing their last albums when it comes to the rock scene. And so I'd say like 70% of the way, it's 70% dead. So it's got to take its medication and go through its physical therapy if it wants to become working again.
Yeah, it's all the older people. My best performing reel on Instagram was like a year ago. I was ranting about, and Tommy Lee actually reposted it, and so I got likes and comments from like one of Danzig's bass players that now follows me, Alice Cooper's guitar player from whoever was playing for me a year ago, liked it and commented. I was ranting about, it was when the last time when Perry Farrell and Dave Navarro got in a fight on stage with Jane's
Oh
Addiction.
yeah, I remember that.
That happened around the same time when Dave Grohl got that chick pregnant, cheating on his wife.
Yeah.
So me and two of my co-hosts, we were on the channel, and I was saying, you know what? I like these stories because fuck, somebody has to be doing this shit. And I was saying, why are none of the kids doing this shit? Why is it still guys that are like my grandpa's age flying the flag for rock and roll? Where are the kids to step up and take on rock and roll? And
a little bit. I was gonna say, yeah, all those people, you hear stories about the like notorious stories of them thrashing hotel rooms. Like you hear about people like Keith Moon, for example. He was like, I think he was like the most notorious one that comes to mind when it comes to either sabotaging hotel rooms or sabotaging people's equipment on stage. Or if like something happens and in his case, he would like put like little explosives and shit, and it would just set off and just surprise somebody. But he was always doing that shit.
So I know for me, my answer to the is rock and roll dead question, for me, I say yes, absolutely, 100%. But I will say, to me, there's a little bit of a difference. Rock music is not dead. That you're always going to be able to find, bands making rock music. But rock and roll, in the way that I know it historically, it is dead. And
I can see that.
I don't even think it could be alive today because our culture is way too sensitive. The story I always think of is there's a Motley Crue story. I can't remember if it's in like one of their books where I first heard it or read it, but there's a story about how one night back in the day, Nikki Sixx and Tom Zutaut were sitting in a booth at the Rainbow. And in the booth next to them was Vince Neil and some chick he was probably fucking.
Yeah.
And they're all sitting there, they're all eating or drinking or whatever. And out of nowhere, Vince Neil stands up out of his booth and punches this chick in the face. And
Jesus.
And Tom Zutaut freaks out and goes, "Holy shit, what do we do?" And Nikki Sixx laughs about it and says, "Oh, it's no big deal. Let them handle it." So if that happens today, like Motley Crue's done, Vince is canceled, Nikki's canceled.
That cancels them. It's funny. Have you listened to any of their newer songs?
Don't even talk about their new stuff to me.
Dogs of War. I don't know. I listened to that song first and foremost, and
it's not good.
I mean, as subjectively as I can, not trying to go off personal bias of like, oh yeah, Vince is old and blah blah blah.
Yeah,
it works well as a John 5 song featuring Motley Crue.
First, let me state, I think John 5 is the best guitarist in the world today. I love John 5. So that actually is a good way to put it. It does work as a John 5 song, but as a Motley Crue song, I never thought about it that way.
Yeah, I mean, like just listening to it, not trying to think it's a Motley Crue song. I'm like, yeah, no, that's a John 5 song, but not necessarily. I don't think Motley Crue with this. And then obviously the other two, you have Fight for Your Right to Party. All the old bands are doing it now. They're throwing in a cover every now and then. I won't give them too much bad juju towards that. But then they had the song Canceled.
That one's Nikki Sixx. There's nothing worse than when nobody's canceling you and you're like, don't cancel me. Like, bro, Nikki, no one's canceling you, brother.
Woke up in the morning, gonna get canceled.
Yeah, that was pretty rough. And I fucking love Motley Crue.
John 5 is a badass.
Oh yeah, John 5 is really good. He was with Rob Zombie for so long. That's how I got into him.
Yeah. I always seen him in the guitar magazines growing up too, for like him with an advertisement or whatever, or him doing like a special lesson in like Guitar World or Guitar One.
He's like a real deal gunslinger. He can play fucking anything.
Oh yeah.
But okay, what I was saying about Vince punching the girl in the face.
Going back to that. Sorry.
Oh no, it's all good.
I just heard Canceled, and that just reminded me of that song.
Especially talking about Motley. So if and this is where it gets into real gray area that people don't like to talk about nowadays. I'm not saying that we should live in a world where guys can punch girls in the face. Like, that's not at all what I want. That's not what I'm advocating for.
No.
But what I am saying is that in a world where rock and roll is going to exist as we know it historically, you just kind of have to accept and acknowledge that there are going to be egotistical dudes with long hair and a lot of leather doing cocaine and drinking. And like, some people are going to get punched in the face. And
oh yeah.
Like it's just one of those things. Like, rock and roll people are notoriously bad people. I mean, Guns N' Roses, there's the story about Axl Rose getting in some fight with some girl and kicking her out on the street completely naked, and he gets some assault charge against him, and he has to hide out in Vicky Hamilton's apartment.
Axl Rose is my favorite in that aspect too, just because there's so much documented footage of all of his freakouts.
Yeah.
Rev and Jody Jorgensen. Yep. But with him in particular, there's two things that come to mind where I'm just like, I always thought Axl Rose is Asshole Rose, but he's done his time, and I do appreciate some things about him. But the two that come to mind are the most popular one, the St. Louis incident,
the riot,
where he's like he's talking shit to somebody. What was it? It was like some camera guy, and he was telling the security guy to say, "Hey, get that, take that, God damn it!" And he just fucking dives right off the stage, and they have to pull him off. Well,
the best part is
thanks to the lame ass thanks to the lame ass bouncers, I'm going home.
The best part is the outfit he's wearing, like the short shorts and like it's like a jacket with like feathers, like some ridiculous Axl outfit, and he's going in the crowd to beat people up.
And then the second one it started up another riot too, but this was in Montreal. It was when they were on tour with Metallica, and James Hetfield got caught on fire in the middle of playing Fade to Black because he stood on the wrong spot where the pyrotechnics came off.
Yeah.
And basically, they played for like 30, 40 minutes, and then he didn't want to play the whole stretch that they said, oh yeah, we'll take care of it. But he didn't want to play the whole stretch. So he just fucking raged and left the stage. And when the riot broke out and all the rest of the Metallica's band members were backstage, they go up to him. They're like, what the fuck? And he's sitting there saying, oh, my throat hurts, as he's smoking a cigarette and drinking champagne. He's like, oh, maybe if you wouldn't drink champagne and smoke cigarettes, your voice wouldn't hurt.
And that's the thing. Axl Rose, definitely an asshole. I also acknowledge Kurt Cobain was also an asshole, but his fans don't have the stomach to hear that. But Kurt was definitely an asshole. Heroin makes you an asshole.
Yeah.
But that's also it's like that gray area again. Like rock and roll kind of needs asshole. Like, they make the best music. They just unfortunately do. Like, it just is one of those weird things about, like, and of course not everybody. There are plenty of nice guys in rock and roll, but you know, without assholes, dude, there is no Appetite for Destruction, and there is no. I mean, Dave Mustaine was an asshole. I mean, that guy was Dave Mustaine was like out of his fucking mind for the first.
That's
half
why
of
he got
Megadeth.
kicked out of Metallica. He was a drunk asshole.
Yeah, I remember my uncle's buddy telling me when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I was only into Metallica, and my uncle's buddy was like, "You need to listen to Megadeth."
Yeah, that's why I hate Axl Rose's voice.
And my uncle's buddy's like, "You need to listen to Megadeth," and I'm like, "Why? I like Metallica." And he's like, "Because Megadeth is the guy that was too fucking hardcore for Metallica." And I was like, "Oh fuck, okay." Like, but
and you could see it in their riffs, man. Their riffs, I will say, when it comes to Metallica and Megadeth, I like the whole span of Megadeth, except for one album, and I think that album was called Risk.
yeah, but they went a little poppier.
Yeah, but even that album, I found some gems on there. But with Metallica, it was like, as much as I love Load, Reload, Garage Inc., Saint Anger, I do love those albums for their purposes, but it wasn't Metallica at that point. They were just experimenting. There's nothing wrong with artists wanting to experiment, but then they learn from their mistakes and then they come back even stronger.
Get lit. This is where me and you were gonna beef, brother. Axl Rose is one of the greatest vocalists of all time. I will meet you at the cemetery. I would gladly meet you at the cemetery, brother. But yeah, no, to me, that's a big thing, you know, when it comes to is rock and roll dead? Yeah, I think it is, and I don't think it could come back. It's just
the spirit of rock and roll is dead, but the genre is still technically there.
And I do have a complaint with the genre, you know, how I said, like, yes, rock music is very much alive. Nostalgia culture is kind of
that's the big driving force right now.
Everything I find, and I will admit there are a lot of bands that I like. Whenever I'm scrolling Instagram or TikTok and I find some band that's like, you know, these 21-year-old looking kids, and I'm like, oh, this is cool. They're all doing throwback stuff. It's always like Deftones or, and like I said, I love that stuff. There's a band called Chauncey right now that I have been really
I've heard of them. Yep.
Yeah, I just reposted something on my Instagram today, but they sound like fucking Deftones, and they're clearly going for that early 2000s, you know, but I'm also kind of black-pilled when it comes to new stuff, because I almost think, like, what could be new? You know, like the last real new genre I can think of was like new metal, like putting rap and metal together.
I hate to say I'm down with the Biscuit.
Oh, I love Limp Bizkit. I fucking love Limp Bizkit, dude. When I was a kid, I found in my stepdad's CD cabinet, I found Chocolate Starfish and Significant Other.
Those were the two that got me into them. Yep, I just came across, or actually my babysitter growing up played Chocolate Starfish, and that was that was it from there, man.
Dude, there's some heavy shit on those albums. Very underrated guitar player for sure.
I love Wes Borland.
Yeah, no, he's good as shit. There's a really cool video on YouTube of him talking about he likes to make his guitars or like do some kind of custom work to them because it gets him more attached to his guitars. And so he'll
makes sense.
Yeah, he'll like tamper with the you know, he played the Jackson V, that's like his main guitar, and he talks about how he put in like the strap locks himself, but not only that, he likes the top I haven't played guitar in so long, so the knobs and the switches, he likes them on like the other side of the guitar, so he like removes them.
Yeah, because otherwise you're reaching across the strings, you might get that potential buzz sound, that feedback. So yeah, I could see him doing that, kind of like Buckethead.
Yeah, and I even think it was a left-handed guitar. He said his main Jackson V came as a left-handed guitar as like a gift, and that's why he switched it to make it a right-handed. So he took all the electronics out himself and switched them all around. And he's talking about how, yeah, when you mess with your stuff for yourself, you know, he's like, I built this, so I love playing this guitar now because I made this myself. I'm more invested in it. And I thought that was really cool because I was never good at that stuff when I was playing guitar. I never even knew how to intonate my guitar. I always joke and say I was a guitar player, not a guitarist, because I never learned, like, you know, especially in my last band, we were such a party band. I was just always blackout drunk at shows. Our singer would like tune my guitar for me, and we used to joke, does the audience think I'm a shitty guitar player, or do they think you're my bitch because you're tuning my guitar for me? Which one is it? But I could play great. You put the guitar in my hands, I can play songs that girls love. But when it comes time to intonate it or do anything other than tuning or playing, you know, fucking count me out. I also will admit I was always kind of arrogant. Guitar for me was always like, I love playing guitar, don't get me wrong, but you know, guitar was definitely to me a tool to get girls and, you know, smoke cigarettes and play parties and shit. That was very much, but to me, I've always considered that part of the life. Another one of my early bits on the channel, I used to joke was, you know, if you want to be a rock star, you have to party. Like, yeah, and like I said, I know you don't actually. Like the guys in Rush didn't party. I fucking love Rush. Billy Corgan didn't party. You know, Gene Simmons.
I never partied when I played.
Yeah,
it was a job for me, you know.
I think what I mostly meant by it was, if you want to write good music, you have to go through things. You have to have experiences. And the easiest way to go through some hard shit is to party. So that was like my kind of like the speed running for, instead of going through a life full of, you know, experiences, just get drunk as shit and do drugs in a party. And
I think a lot of people then too thought the same idea too. Like it's the easiest way to go through, but I can say easily with the stuff I've been through, it would make me a hell of a better songwriter now than I was when I was 15 or 16, and I was just trying to write about shit that I heard in other songs, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, everyone's definitely got their own path with the music thing. Some people do need to go down the party style road, and some people don't need to at all. Yeah, fucking A. Every time I think about that last band, I had a lot of great times. That was the only time that I ever like cold walked up to a girl and like pulled a girl away from the dude that she came with at the show, which is like one of my favorite rock star moments for sure. But yeah, I don't know. Get Lit in chat is mentioning okay, we're still talking new metal stuff. Korn. I was never a big Korn fan, but I do love Twisted Transistor and
Follow the Leader's a great album too. A lot of good deep cuts on that album for sure.
Yeah. You guys had a band. Yeah, we were both in our own separate bands. Get Lit. We both came from the same music scene. I think we talked about that at the very beginning, but I know you didn't come in until a little bit later. Let's hear it. No, I'm not gonna pull up our stuff yet.
Oh God.
Actually, Get Lit. The outro for the stream. You know, every time I end the stream, that is my band, my last band, the band that, if anybody ever asks me, I was in multiple bands, but if anybody ever asks me to show them something, that's the band I show them. So the outro from this stream is a little guitar thing from my last band, but I'll pull it up on stream some other time when we're just like fucking around more. But yeah, fucking A, I don't know. But the nostalgia thing, I know that's kind of what I was saying.
It's a big driving force in what's going to be popular when it comes to rock nowadays, because that's all I'm seeing in the top charts, you know?
Yeah, it's all
maybe a flash in the pan band every now and then, but mainly just people driving that nostalgia factor by coming together or announcing, hey, everybody, this is our last album. After this, we're not making any more new music.
Here, really quick, Get Lit for the link. I'll pull it up on screen for you. If you go champagnegirls.bandcamp.com, you'll come to this page. That's me with the blonde hair at 19. It pulls up this 2-track Damn It Dolly EP. That's the most recent thing we did, but there's like 2 other things right here. The Pound
got a little Mega Man right there.
Yeah, that's just a little demo acoustic thing that I kind of forced some artwork onto. But these
there you go.
These 2 tracks are our best songs. They're verified panty droppers. Girls loved these ones, so I'd recommend these. And then go to Pound Town. This little brown looking album right here. It's very shittily recorded. It was just me and our singer drunk in the garage one day. We just laid out the whole EP, but it is a really good EP. But okay, the nostalgia stuff. What I always, like I said, I don't even know what new could be like done. You know, it almost seems like we've gone through, like we're in 2026. What more could you do on a guitar, in a drum set, in a bass?
Yeah, no, we're at that point too. The whole, how do I phrase it? Like everything's getting recycled.
Yes.
Over and over again. You hear one song and it's basically the same song that was released 30 years ago, which was the same song that was released 30 years prior. And like a lot more than others. Obviously, you have. I'm not saying like when it comes to sampling music, because I think that's like one of the best things, especially when it comes to hip hop, is when they throw samples in there that you have heard from either pop culture or from those older songs like in the 60s, the 70s. Um, but when it comes to writing new music, a lot of people are recycling the riffs. And it's funny. I think a good comparison that I use is you know the band The Cult.
Yes.
Okay, so they have a song called Rain,
Uh-huh.
and that is identical, damn near structure wise and chord progression, and the way that like even how the lyrics are spanned and structured themselves. Not the same subject in the lyrics to Theory of a Dead Man's Bad Girlfriend.
Okay. So Theory of a Dead Man took it. You'd say they took some influence from The Cult.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the chord progression alone is identical, spot on. But once you start taking apart a song and you start breaking down the structure, you can see they have like minor differences. Like the intro to both of them are very different. The intro to Rain's a lot is clean and has a little bit of buildup with the drums, but you hear that drum buildup in the Theory of the Dead Man song, but their intro is a lot more different because they add some extra little blues riff on top of that, which I can guarantee is probably from a prior song that I can't even think of at the moment. But then when you listen to them side by side, it is almost identical same song.
Yeah.
And I see it all the time. Not even mentioning the things like Nirvana, Come As You Are versus Killing Joke's 80s.
Yeah. I know the Enter Sandman is one of them.
Yep, that's one that Dave himself too was like harping on, and I went to go look that up myself, and I'm like, that's pretty fucking close.
Yeah, I tend to give some slack. Real quick, get lit. I will check out that band, Giovanni and the Hired Guns. The Hired Guns is a cool. As I got older, I started to appreciate those somebody's name and the something's name. When I was playing music with my girlfriend, I always wanted to make her call herself Molly, and I wanted us to be Molly and the Twist.
I like that.
And then I always wanted to do Scratch Cat and the Gypsies. I think Gypsy is kind of a iffy word nowadays, but I don't care about that stuff. I like the word. But yeah, I tend to cut some slack. You know, Poison got in trouble for I Want Action. There's a song.
Yeah. I can't think of the other song they were copying, or supposedly, I should say.
It's the exact same chorus.
It is. It was
like We Want Something, but you know, what's that redheaded pop singer that I can't stand?
Redheaded pop singer.
Ed Sheeran.
Ed Sheeran. Okay. Yeah.
I don't know if you heard about his whole lawsuit. He got sued for
yeah, what was that fucking song?
I don't remember the song, but he got sued for, you know, plagiarism of that sort. And he actually made a really good point. And he was like, dude, all pop songs are like the same. And he won.
Yeah, he's pointing it out too.
He explained it so well that he won the case. And then he went on the radio and he was like, it might have been with Howard Stern. He was like, dude, give me any pop song from the last like 20 years. And he played the same 4 chords on guitar and sang every song. And obviously that's a little different than, you know, like the Enter Sandman riff being the same as the other song or whatever. But at the same time, you know, I'll still cut some slack because it's like, you know, it's different enough. You know, it's all going to come from somewhere. Like I said, everything's been done before. It seems like my favorite method that I always did for, if I was gonna, what I would say rip off another song, but what I mean is like take influence from it is, and I think too many people don't do this now, and this is a problem with the whole nostalgia era that we're in with, like I said, Chauncey sounding just like Deftones. I would take stuff from other genres. Like to me, the best thing to do is Like, I love Sabrina Carpenter. If I was going to write rock and roll music today, I would listen to a shit ton of Sabrina Carpenter and try to like somehow take influence from that and put it into the rock music. Kind of like what Rob Zombie was saying, how
I get that ideology.
Even when he was in a metal band and he's like, but when I listened to the radio, I had to listen to ABBA. So I listened to Dancing Queen, and that got influenced into my, metal music. And that's how you get new things. He mentioned, like you might have a band that wants to play heavy metal, but when they're listening to the radio as kids, all they have was ZZ Top. So what do? They just played ZZ Top riffs really fast. But then that creates a whole new genre because you're taking something and playing it differently, as opposed to just, taking another rock song and writing another rock song. Dude, take like a Japanese pop song and then write a rock song out of that and see what weird shit
I see people doing that from time to time, and their stuff blows me away too. Sabrina Carpenter is fire.
Dude, she is a guilty pleasure, dude. She's real catchy.
Yeah, I haven't listened to any of her music.
I loved not her most recent album, but the one with Espresso on it. So her 2 albums ago, I really fucking like. That's the one that got me into her. Like every song on that album is really good. Very catchy. My sister is really into her. But I don't know. It's the nostalgia thing. There's something that I kind of like about the pop stuff, like Sabrina Carpenter, is that they're not doing anything new, but it's like they kind of know. Like Sabrina Carpenter is literally just doing the sex sells pop thing. It's just Madonna, just modern day,
right?
But there's like an honesty to it. It's like, I'm not recreating the wheel. I'm just riding the wheel that's already here, and that's fine. It's just a catchy song about sex, and that's all that matters. But with rock music, what do you think about? I guess this might be the part where we get a little bit into AI too, but
all right.
Well, also because I was talking about the different recording quality of the Ride the Lightning songs. Dave's just clearly all plugged straight into the computer, whereas Metallica's was mic'd. Everything was mic'd up, the mic drums.
Right.
Like, to me, that's something that's lost. When I listen to music nowadays, especially rock music, it all sounds way too, like it sounds like not machinery in the Pantera way. It sounds like electronic to me. The guitars all sound way too bassy in rock songs nowadays.
It's way too clean.
Yeah, it's like, dude, turn the fucking treble up, put a mic in front of the amp, and just fucking record. Like, quit plugging straight. Yeah, to me, that's a big problem I have with rock music.
It is modernized.
Yeah, it's way too sharp. I like that. If it sounds like a microphone, if you stuck a mic in the middle of the garage and the band played the song, I like it. Like that's, obviously I understand some little, you want to clean up a little bit. You don't want it to sound too much like shit, but you want it to sound real. And I don't think a lot of music really sounds like that anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. No kidding. I mean, going with that whole, everything sounds way too clean nowadays. And it's a symptom. Everybody's doing it because they feel like that raw sound, like you said, just setting up a microphone in the middle of a garage or a space and then getting different people coming in and laying down their tracks is very far and few between nowadays. And the people that don't really get the recognition that they deserve, because there might be a whole story to that. Maybe they do want to sound more clean and digitized, but all they can afford is the microphone in the garage. And to them, it shows a bit of like you're coming from something, because everything is just way too clean nowadays. It's like it's all about a principle of money and like how much are you willing to put into a project that ends up becoming way too clean sounding.
What do you think about like I was going to try to work this into the AI thing, but do you think AI art is even like a thing? Like I hear some people say it's not even art unless a human creates it.
Perfect. So here's my viewpoint and all that. When it comes to AI, and especially people utilizing it nowadays and how they utilize it, I think the whole what becomes art aspect is, there's no argument. Technically, it is an art, but whether it's authentic and raw and comes from soul, that's a different thing entirely. And I can see, for example, one night I was really bored and I downloaded I was going through Instagram or something. I seen an advertisement for people using this AI program to make music. And out of curiosity, I said, I wonder how hard of an effort you would have to put in to actually do something. And so I downloaded it and I checked it out. And I could say, as AI is getting better and better by the day, when I first saw that, I was even blown away that it could even be made in a matter of like 30 seconds. All you need is the right prompts and the right program, and bing, bang, boom, you have yourself a song. And what I see nowadays, especially with music that's being made and new music, and I have to say, a lot of the rock music that's being made nowadays, it's not that they're using AI completely. It's they're using it and then copying it in their own format. Like AI makes the song, they learn the riffs that AI makes, and then they make their real song.
Yeah.
But at that time, like what I've learned to gauge how a song is AI or not is you listen to the lyrics. And when you listen to the lyrics, it all seems like no matter what genre you're going into, it has a central theme. Now, mind you, so did like a lot of genres from way back when music was a thing to nowadays. Like there's always common themes, common things being said. But when you have a certain template that is utilized across the platform and that people have access to, you hear that same template in other songs, like the exact same template. And at that point, it just becomes a whole entire issue, because all you have to do is just write one sentence of what you want the song to be about.
Mhm.
And like I see a lot of AI, songs use the word like "in the shadows," and as soon as I hear "in the shadows," like that 3-word phrase, I start listening to it more, and then I start pointing out different things in the template. And I'm like, hey, wait a minute. They used AI to make the lyrics. And this riff sounds like is something that's been made by AI. So it makes me give a second glance to the music that I consume nowadays, is what I got to say about the whole AI and music. But when it comes to, is AI an art? Technically it is. Do I consider it art? No, because I feel like art has to have some authenticity to it.
Yeah, that is probably like the good long answer, because usually like short answer I'd say no, but at the end of the day, music is like subjective. If you played an AI song for my grandmother, she would have no idea. She'd be like, "Oh yeah, that's a song to somebody."
That's the scary thing. They won't know.
Yeah.
They would. Do you see like on Facebook and shit all the AI posts that people put up, and
Yeah.
everybody and their grandmother's falling for that shit?
Dude, people that are like our age are falling for that shit, and it's like, brother,
That's rough.
it's like we grew up with this stuff. I always joke that millennials, there's no excuse. Like, for me, like if I get like a friend request or a follow on Instagram from some girl, I can look at that account for 3 seconds and tell you if it's a real person or if it's not, if it's some AI OnlyFans girl. Like that's like built into us, because this stuff came to us when we were like in middle school and then high school. Like we've had this stuff forever. But the old people, they didn't grow up with it, so they really can't tell. But when I see people that are like my age falling for it, I'm like, brother, you have no excuse. Like, you're just stupid. That's what's going on here.
Absolutely.
But yeah, the more and more realistic it gets, like the worse it's gonna get. I don't like it. To me, it's when it comes to movies now too. I love movies, and people are talking about how it's gonna put Hollywood out of business because they're just gonna make AI movies, and who knows how far it actually will get. I'm sure it'll go as far as like all the the owners and companies and whatever. I'm sure it'll go as far as they want it to go, which could get pretty shitty. But yeah, I could see record labels just let's just pump out some songs from prompts that we typed into AI. There are already AI songs that have charted. Like there have been AI songs on Billboard charts already at this point. And
yeah, I can't think of the name of the band, but they were supposedly a 70s style rock band that averaged about like 200 to 300 monthly listeners. And
yeah.
that guy, I think, ended up getting in trouble for fraud because you make money off that. And basically, in the government's eyes, if you're using everything solely AI without any kind of human integration with it, there's a lot of gray ground. What is considered enough human interaction integrated with the AI, but more so if it's all AI, like you use AI listeners or bots to spam how many times a song's been listened to the point where your monthly listeners makes your revenue through that streaming service. And at that point, you're basically printing money because you have the AI program that you're running literally in your one desktop.
Yeah, it's just the technology stuff to me is I hate to be one of those like, oh, born in the wrong era people, but
you sound like a boomer.
Yeah, but like I'm very envious of people that got to like, you know, be in their like teenage years and 20s in like the, you know, anytime in like the 60s, 70s or 80s, and like imagine going and seeing like, imagine being like 19 years old and seeing fucking Leonard Skinner on a hot summer day and just like
it's the experience.
Yeah. Dude. Okay, because when we talked, we mentioned this name specifically. That's why I just thought to bring this up. What do you think about Youngblood?
I think he's a great artist.
Yeah.
I really do. Now, when you go to the example of he's an industry plant, I don't know. It's sometimes it's hard to tell. But there are obvious industry plants that it's a thing that's been going on as record labels have been around. It just happens. But nowadays, I do feel like there is an over-influctuation of industry plants that a lot of people, like I said, it's all about that short time attention span. You know, they're interested 3 months prior, and then 3 months later, they don't even know who the fuck that is anymore, and they moved on to the next new artist that a record company just spat out.
Yeah. I've actually talked about him a lot on the channel. I think he's a pops. First of all, when I talk about Youngblood, you know, I talk about the hype that he's the next big rock guy. He's gonna be the guy to champion rock and roll.
I don't know about that, but I could see him being in that. If there's a resurgence, I could see him being a part of that resurgence.
It's so strange to me because to me he's clearly a pop singer. He's a pop artist.
Right.
He's a pop star. And there's nothing wrong with that. I love pop.
No.
Again, I love pop music. He's got a song called 11 Minutes that he did with Halsey. I love that song. He did a song with...
Right.
I hate to admit it, but he did a song with Machine Gun Kelly. And actually with Burt McCracken of The Used. I think it's called Body Bag. And he sings really well on that song.
I've heard about that.
It's a really good song. He's a really good singer. I like the raspy voice. But I don't think he's the rock guy. You know, I'm not a fan of Black Veil Brides. But Andy Biersack or something? He did an interview where he was talking about this, and he made a really good point. He was saying, he was asked about it, you know, do you think Youngblood is the next rock guy? And he was like, look, dude, every 5 or 10 years, there's a new next rock guy because the record labels are so desperate for another rock.
They're spitting him out constantly.
Yeah, and Andy talked about it. He's like, I was that guy. And I remember that time. Remember when Black Veil Brides were going to be like the next big glam band? They were going to be like 80s revival.
The glam resurgence.
Yeah. He was like, there was a time in my life when all of these old rock dudes, you know, like Sebastian Bach and, you know, Tommy Lee, like he's like, all these guys were texting me constantly. They were in my phone. And now look what's happening to Youngblood. He's doing songs with Billy Corgan. He's doing songs with Aerosmith. He's doing... You know, and people will always defend it and say, well, Ozzy liked him. And here's where I get a little bit cynical when it comes to famous people, even famous people that I look up to like Ozzy. You're not going to convince me that Ozzy was sitting around listening to Youngblood in his spare time. Like, was a big Youngblood fan. I think what happened there clearly was that they probably met at some event backstage. And yeah, they probably got along because they're both from the same part of the world. They probably became friends.
They grew up in the same neighborhood, I think was the whole thing about it. But yeah.
Yeah, so I'm sure they do like each other. I'm sure they did like each other a lot. And
technically, there's a little bit of camaraderie in that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I bet you Sharon, being Sharon, came to Ozzy and said, "This is a young, trending artist. You need to attach yourself to him." And
Ozzy didn't know what the fuck was going on.
Yeah, and I think that's when Ozzy came out and said, "This guy is the next." Because Ozzy straight up said, "This guy's the next Ozzy Osbourne," and I'm like, "Dude, Ozzy,
I don't believe that. No.
Yeah, you're not going to convince me that Steven Tyler, like these guys sit around and listen to records that came out in like the 40s and 50s. Ozzy listens to the Beatles all day, I'm sure, or did. Yeah, you're not going to. Maybe I could see Billy Corgan listening to Youngblood because he seems like one of those guys that likes to keep up on things. But Ozzy was not listening to Youngblood records all day long.
Maybe he was, and we don't know.
There's just no way. There's just no way. Like
he gets down with Youngblood.
He's just like super into Youngblood and Machine Gun Kelly. But yeah, no, I think what's happening is he's being hyped up as the next rock and roll guy, and
they do that for the distraction. Yep, I completely agree. That is definitely a big part of that. Just keep us distracted.
Well, and I think they do. Well, I think the old rock, when it comes to the old rock guys trying to attach themselves to, I think they do it to attach themselves to a young trending name. Like now, Smashing Pumpkins, one of their most popular songs is the song they did with Youngblood because it's new and it's fresh. He's young. Aerosmith was supposed to do an album with him. They only did one song. I think it might be over though because now Steven Tyler's in trouble again. I don't know if you heard about that.
Oh no, I didn't hear about that. What happened?
Steven Tyler had that whole story where he adopted that one girl that he was with.
Wait, he adopted somebody that he ended up being with? What?
Okay, so Steven Tyler, it's funny. This goes to show how different the world used to be. In one of Steven Tyler's
weird. Weird.
In one of his books that he wrote, he wrote about this because in the world it was accepted at the time as like a rock and roll story. It was some chick that was anywhere from like 14 to 16. And he was getting with her and he wanted to bring her on tour with him. So he went to her parents and convinced them to let him legally adopt the girl so that
fucking foul.
So that he could take her on tour with him. And then there's a whole story about how I think it's Steven Tyler that she woke up one day in his apartment and it was on fire. And she swears that Steven Tyler tried to get someone to set the apartment on fire to get rid of her. Weird stuff, but that stuff's coming back around. I think she's suing him for stuff like that again.
God.
Yeah. So I don't know if Youngblood's gonna do the Aerosmith album now with that stuff coming back out. Yeah, no, it's a whole yes, Billy Corgan still does own NWA, which is one of my favorite things about Billy Corgan, that he's a pro wrestling fan. It's hilarious.
That's pretty cool. I didn't know that he was doing wrestling. Oh no, he's owning the wrestling. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
There's a smaller company called NWA, which is funny because back in the day, like 80s, that was a huge brand. But yeah, he owns it. Back in the day, those bands needed to have groupies. Yeah, she was a groupie, and the weird part about the story was that he was able to convince her parents to let him adopt her legally. But yeah, that's also one of the stories that I hate to say is one of those like stories of, when I say rock and roll doesn't exist today, because nowadays if Steven Tyler were to do that, obviously it'd be over immediately for him, whereas back then, shit like that slid. The bassist of the Rolling Stones married like a fucking 16-year-old chick, and that everyone knew it. There's a video.
Oh God.
There's a video on YouTube of it's Nikki Sixx and Vince Neil, and then some other rock stars from other bands, and they're talking about like who are the most sex, drugs, and rock and roll bands of all time. And Nikki Sixx is bringing up the Rolling Stones, and he's like, the Rolling Stones was super sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I mean, their bassist married a 16-year-old chick, and the audience cheers when he says this. And this show was
man,
this would happen in like the early 2000s. Like people like cheered for him when he said this, and it's like, it's one of those things. Like you have to get into the gray area. Like if is it like, is the world a better place that rock and roll is dead? Or would there, I would say there's definitely a way to have it without that part. Like, we can still have, like Axl Rose being an asshole, but we don't need to have the, Steven Tyler adopting teenagers. Like, that part could be left behind. And
yeah, that's
and you can still have sex, drugs, and rock and roll today. I would say, it just sex with 18 and above, of course. Like, that should be like the one rule. And then yeah, Led Zeppelin.
Rolling Stones and Led Zeppelin. Oh no. When I think of Led Zeppelin,
oh yeah.
You mentioned about the whole sex, drugs, and rock and roll thing. Here's a little bit of homework for the next time I come on. Look up the all I'm gonna say is Led Zeppelin Mudshark story.
Okay, I'm very curious now.
I'm not gonna explain it on here because that's a whole entire thing on its own, but it is depraved, man. It makes what Marilyn Manson was doing look like child's play.
Dude, all the bands have those stories. One of my biggest pet peeves is people on the internet who like pick and choose, like, especially when it comes to politics now. You'll see people, because of Ted Nugent and his like political opinions.
Oh God, yeah. I love Ted Nugent, but man, he needs to he's an old man. He just needs to go sit in his chair for a second.
Yeah, but what I mean is, like, I also love Ted Nugent, Cat Scratch Fever, of course, but you'll see people pick and choose. So like I one time was talking to this guy on Instagram, fucking hates Ted Nugent because he's a racist. And then I go to his page and he's a huge Nikki Sixx fan. And I was like, brother, have you not seen the video of Nikki Sixx calling a black dude the N-word, like at a show live in front? Like, I was like, you realize, like, you can't say that. To me, being a fan of rock and roll and just the whole genre in general is having to acknowledge that, like, yes, most of these people have done shitty things. And I just have to kind of put that to the side when I listen to the music.
It's a whole shock factor thing. That was the beautiful thing about rock and roll nowadays, because there was a shock factor behind it. Back in the 50s, the stuff that we look at is like, oh, that's nice and sweet oldies. First of all, half those songs were not nice and sweet, like everyone says. You start deciphering the lyrics and going, oh, okay, that's what that means. And then B, a lot of people thought of it like Satan music. So there was a little bit of a rebellion to it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's
the rebellion's died. Like I said, the spirit of rock is dead, but like rock music technically as a genre is still around.
Elvis, yeah, I know Elvis married Priscilla when she was super young. They claim that they didn't have sex until she turned 18, but who are we kidding?
He's Elvis Presley.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just one of those things to me. It's one of those separating art from artist. And not even that, because I don't want to say like I love all the stories, like all the debauchery stories.
You love listening to them, but not. Yeah, you wouldn't like look up to that shit.
Yeah, like I do love the stories, but I don't condone or do that stuff myself. It's
right.
It's just kind of a time capsule looking back at how things used to be too. There's a VH1 documentary about Poison. Just completely in this again from the early 2000s. Even they're talking about how, Poison moved to Los Angeles in the mid 80s. Bret Michaels met his girlfriend. She was 16 years old, and she moved into a shack with the band basically. And it's like they just say it like it was nothing. And I'm like, oh, that's a time capsule. Things back then that used to be fine. People just talked about it like that. Which
right. That's funny that you keep bringing up Poison. Did you know that I actually opened up for Bret Michaels?
I think your brother mentioned that to me last time we were talking. Again, when I hit him up on accident.
That was one of those shows. Like that was our first. Actually, I shouldn't say that was our first big show. Our first big show was opening up for Quiet Riot. But when we did Bret Michaels, that was like the most people that we've ever had at a show. Place was absolutely packed. It was over at Ace of Spades, and that show we had another band that we played with. I won't say the name just in case, but these guys were one of those 80s resurgence bands. Like they made their own originals. They were 80s inspired, but they were like 40, 50 years old. And we were, I think I was 15 at the time.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I mean, you're familiar with how a lot of venues are in California, where it's you basically have to like sell tickets and like you get a percentage at the door and
It's
all that
basically
shit.
pay to play.
Pay to play instead of getting paid to play.
Yeah.
So they had that system where it was like, all right, whoever sold more tickets would be the band before the headliner, Bret Michaels. So we ended up selling some last minute tickets, and that bumped us over this other band. Mind you, these guys were 40, 50 years old, all into that 80s hair metal shit. And they got pissed, but they didn't like really like outright say it quite yet. But they were pissed. You could see it in their attitudes and shit. And so the night goes on. They go up first. They play their show, and then we go on right after them and play our set before Bret Michaels. And right before they went on, I remember going into the bathroom backstage to go take a piss, and on the bar stool in that bathroom was a pile of Coke. And I was like, what the fuck's going on here? So I finished taking my piss. I'm 15 years old and I'm not like into that partying shit. So
Yeah.
I just walk out of there. And I think it was the guitar player looked up and he was doing some like on the dressing room table. And he's like, oh, yeah, by the way, help yourself if you see some of that in there. And I was like, okay, just kind of walked out of there all weirdly. But later that night, because they were so pissed that we ended up taking the second to headliner spot, they, in a coked up fueled rage, started, a pile.
Awesome. I noticed that too when you said a pile, not like 3 lines, just like
no, it was a pile. It was a pile.
That's
and
awesome.
So later that night, I think it was the drummer. He got into his head about this whole entire situation, and he ended up going to the public bathrooms at Ace and started smashing up all the fucking toilets.
Jeez, Ace, that place.
Oh man, we played at that place so many fucking times. It's a cool place. But like, yeah, we mainly opened up for a lot of 80s bands too that were just there at the time and people liked us and stuff. And so we always got like, I remember getting a call last minute to open up for Queensryche.
Yeah.
That was like one of those moments where I'm like, oh God, they actually give a shit. They're like, hey, they called us like it was on a Tuesday and the show was on a Wednesday. They said, hey, so one of the bands had to drop out. You guys don't have to sell tickets. We need somebody to take that spot before Queensryche. And we're like, all right, yeah, we'll do it. But let's see. There was Quiet Riot, Bret Michaels, Queensryche, Great White. We played with both versions of them, which was the Jack
awesome.
Russell's Great White and the others from Great White.
Yeah.
Who else? We opened up for Buckcherry. That was quite a wild show too.
That would be cool.
But I consider Josh Todd personally as one of those asshole fucking, like, people say Axl Rose is an asshole. Josh Todd is an asshole after he got cleaned up.
Yeah.
He was on a power trip. That show, me and our bass player snuck into like a side storage area while he was kicking everybody out as everyone was trying to load their shit in. He's like, we need like a 2.5 like private rehearsal, so you guys have to wait outside and we're gonna lock the doors. And and so everybody got locked out, and then me and my bass player, we got out and we're like, oh no, looks like we got locked in. Looks like we're gonna sit and watch you guys. And so they let us stay in as long as we didn't say anything. So we watched them, and it sounded like typical Buckcherry, nothing too special.
Yeah.
But that show in particular, we had a lot of people going up to us after that show saying that Buckcherry was absolute shit and that we were like the highlight of the show. And a lot of people started leaving during their set and shit. And I'm like, yeah, it doesn't matter how long you practice and all that. If you're going to be an asshole, not like do it for the spirit of the music, it's going to show in your work and people are just not going to accept it.
Dude, what was your band? Getlit is asking. I also can't remember your band's name back then.
My band was Force of Habit.
Dude, We played my band in high school played Ace of Spades, which I hated because my band in high school was terrible. We had a terrible
No,
drummer.
we played with you guys a couple of times. I thought you guys were pretty good.
We definitely played together, probably in the hometown shows. I think would be
Rock Studio.
Oh, I fucking missed the Rock Studio. That was such a
Dude, that was I loved that time period when
That
the
was-
Rock Studio was a thing.
such a dingy little shithole, but like it was our dingy little shithole. You know that like 200 kids would come to and just get drunk
Pack
and
that
rowdy.
fucking tight ass room.
Yeah, get lit. Yeah, that's what it was. Now that he mentions this, I remember, dude.
I named that band off of an Exodus record at the time. It was when I was in that thrash phase and I was like looking for inspiration for a name, and a lot of the ones I thought of were pretty fucking lame. And
Yeah.
I was listening to that album, I was like, this is what I want our style to be, or at least what I want to bring to the table. And nobody had an idea for a name, threw that name out there, and it just stuck.
Dude, it's honestly better than my band in high school, June Breaks Bright. Might be the worst band name I can think of.
I forgot you were in that group.
Yeah,
I forgot about that. I was thinking of the other guys.
Later, I was in a band called The Kids We Used to Be, and then
I do remember them. Yep.
Later, I got into Ghost Stories, which then became Champagne Girls.
Okay.
Ghost Stories was the best band. Ghost Stories / Champagne Girls. That was the best band I was ever in. The story of that is just that our singer named us Ghost Stories, and I always told him, I'm like, brother, it's a good name, but it's very generic. Like, you know, there's 100 bands called Ghost Stories, and sure enough, I found a band on Bandcamp from Ohio called Ghost Stories that not only was called Ghost Stories, but they were like the same genre as us. And I was like, dude, we have to fucking change the name. And our singer wouldn't let me change it until we got a new drummer, and our drummer came in, and he worked for a particular record label that I don't want to name, but a big label at the time that we all really wanted to be on. He's the art director. I think he still is there. And he came in and he was like, yeah, dude, we need to change the name. Ghost Stories is generic as fuck. And what sucked is we changed it too late. All of our friends were pissed that we changed it because we've been Ghost Stories for so long.
Right.
But, okay, only because you mentioned the pile of cocaine story. I mean, there's like a million stories of me like partying too hard at shows.
See, after shows, I always stayed away. It wasn't. Yeah, it was actually because I was a fucking square, but
lucky.
It was mainly because I needed a quiet place to start thinking about music and shit, and everybody else is partying around you. So I just go to a side bedroom or something, and I'm pulling out my notes and shit and writing shit. Have my guitar in there and just kind of chill out, mellow out after a show, because I treated it like a job. I didn't want to be one of those people that get fucked up and rely on having to do that in order to get through playing a show, because I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, it is much easier to do it that way. I was cocky, I was arrogant. I liked partying.
There's no shame in that. Everyone's fucking, I would say everyone and their sisters probably done that in the whole music scene of things.
We played a house when I was in Champagne, Ghost Stories and Champagne Girls. That was mostly a party band. We played Red House in Walnut Creek. That was like one of my favorite
I
venues.
remember Red House. Yep.
Yeah. And
just give me a second. I'm plugging this in really quick because I want to keep going. Bob,
you're good.
Continue.
You know, we played a lot of house parties in the Central Valley area in that band, and dude, those parties were there'd be like 300 kids like jammed into a house, pouring out the back door into the backyard, and just a band in the living room, people kicking holes in walls, people passing out everywhere, people smoking who knows what, drinking who knows what.
Yeah, it got wild. I've been to quite a few house shows. Like, it's funny you said like you weren't into the punk, because like I had friends that were into the whole punk scene, and a result of that was going to a lot of house shows, and dude, like the shit I've seen there alone is like, I bet you Gigi Allen's looking up right now, because I can't say he's looking down.
Right. Yeah, shit. The two I have in mind, one, I don't even know why I'm gonna mention it. We played this acoustic house show where it was just me and my singer on acoustic guitars and our bass player with a tambourine. I was drinking a handle of vodka. Had my first Jello shots that night. I did stuff that I cannot say what I did on the internet. That's like the best way to describe that one.
Fair
I just
enough.
cannot say it.
Redacted.
Yeah, no, I cannot speak about this one publicly. The last show I ever played what is the big party story, and you'll know how bad this is because like a fellow musician, if this was a fair and just world, I should have gotten my ass whooped this night. It was the last show we ever played. We all knew it was our last show before we were breaking up. We were fighting really bad at the time. And I was mad about this. I knew this was over. So this was kind of my way of like protesting or whatever. Before we went on stage, I probably took like 7 Xanax bars. I sniffed up half of them, crushed up and sniffed them, swallowed the other half. I was drinking all night. This video is still on YouTube, unfortunately, of this show. I'm blacked out. I'm like, there's 2 songs that my band had that I didn't really like, so I would turn my guitar off and smoke cigarettes behind my amp. Our drummer's
a little bit of a protest.
Yeah, our drummer's throwing sticks at me, yelling at me. There's a couple songs that I was supposed to start on guitar, and everyone's yelling at me to. Dude, I'm just a fucking fool. I don't remember shit except for the video and what people have told me. The part that you'll understand what I'm talking about, where I should have got my ass whooped, was in the midst of this blackout. I told my singer I was going to go back behind the venue. This was at RBU. You might remember. I'm sure you remember that venue too.
Oh, I do.
Remember backstage where all the bands kept all their gear?
Yeah.
I went back there and I found somebody's Marshall head on the floor. And I told our singer I was going to piss on somebody's gear backstage. I was like, I don't know whose it's going to be, but I'm going to go back there and I'm going to do it. I have this on video too, because I pulled out my camera. I've got like fucking red eyeshadow because I was going through a red eyeshadow phase at shows. It's just like smeared all over my face. I'm just blackout. In a just a world, whatever guitar player this was walks back there while I'm doing this and whoops my ass. But it's not a just world. So nobody came backstage and I got away with it. That's probably the worst of my party stories, is pissing on somebody's Marshall head backstage and me getting away with it. Like I said, it would have been a cool story if somebody came back and saw me and whooped my ass like the way it should have been. But
very it didn't go similar. That way. There was a show that we played, and I don't mind telling this story because it's not like this band ever is going to look into our archives or anything. But
yeah.
So we were opening up for a band called Burn Halo. And they were popular at the time. They were kind of like nationally popular, not international. But there was a lot of fuckery that was going on with the show, with bands taking too much time for sound checks and tuning up. And what we were going on right before them, we ended up getting cut off like about 3 songs too short of our set list that we were told, because Burn Halo wanted to go up and play the show and get out of there as soon as possible. And so we were kind of bummed out. We had somebody that was with us that was one of our roadies who went to their he went to their tour bus van thing, and he just took a piss in their fucking gas tank.
Dude, in the gas
and
tank.
He was drinking throughout the night, so he just took a fat piss in their gas tank. And the next day after the show, we look on their Twitter and they mentioned something about their van breaking down.
God, dude.
And we're like, yeah, no, we didn't ask him to do that. He did it out of his own fruition. He was pissed off about what happened to us, so he's like, he just slipped out when nobody was looking, and then slipped back, and then kept telling us the whole night, yeah, we're probably gonna have to go here pretty soon. Like, why? He's like, well, I'll tell you on the way back. We just have to go here pretty soon.
Yeah, just trust me. We got to cut out of here real quick. Yeah, dude. Oh, I couldn't even imagine. I couldn't imagine someone pissing on my amp, and I couldn't imagine someone pissing in my gas tank, and then never finding out about it too. So, oh yeah, our van broke down. Oh God, you guys are lucky you had a roadie.
Oh, we had a couple. We had a couple of them. They just loved coming to the shows for free and getting to hang out and fuck around, because that was basically, it was just, we played our show, but then we'd spend the whole night just fucking around and getting into shit.
Yeah, Yeah, those are good times playing shows. It's just fun. It was just fun. Some shows sucked. I'm not gonna, everyone's got their shitty shows, but
You'll have a few duds here and there, sure.
yeah, but the good shows are just like, man, you can never beat a good show with the band, especially back then when you're younger. Like nowadays, if I were to play in a band now, I'd play the show, I'd watch the other bands, I'd go home. There's something about playing a show when you're like 19 and you're just like, dude, the world is here to see me. All these girls are here for me. Like there's just something about that feeling, and then just your band's partying, people are pissing in gas tanks, and there's always shenanigans going on at shows like that.
Oh yeah, I remember even when we would do our trips down to LA to play like the Whiskey A Go Go or play the Roxy. Those were fun shows because the whole entire time we're just teenagers fucking around on the Sunset Strip
Yeah.
and getting into whatever the fucking LA scene would get us into, you know?
And out of town shows like that are awesome because you're new. Like you
You're a
kind of
traveler.
yeah, nobody knows you. Nobody remembers that story from you in high school. You know what I mean? Like you kind of get to be whoever you actually want to be because you're, bro, I'm 6 hours away. No one knows who the fuck I am.
And that's why we had all of our friends coming along, and a lot of them wanted to be roadies, is because they just basically it was for them to get like the little patch or the little symbol that tells them that they're allowed to go backstage and all that shit.
Yeah.
And but mainly it was just so that they could hang out with us. If they met somebody famous, like for example, I think it was Quiet Riot, and then two other 80s band shows that we played where they had Rudy Sarzo from Quiet Riot fill in as their bass player on those nights. And we had this recurring thing, which started at the Quiet Riot show, where our bass player and Rudy Sarzo would start talking about leather pants and shit. And they would just have this fucking hella long conversation just about leather pants. And it became a thing where when we bumped into him at other shows, he'd be like, "Oh shit, I remember this guy. He's the leather pants guy."
Oh, that's awesome. Leather pants, dude. I have Slash's autobiography from like 2006 or 7,
Uh-huh.
and I haven't read it in years. The story of how I got it's actually really funny. It was like a life-changing moment for me.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. Okay, really quick since I brought it up. I was a Christian school kid up until 6th grade. So, I was a nerd.
Oh, okay. Yep, yep. I know what
My
school
biggest
that is.
exposure to music was School of Rock with Jack Black, and I still do credit that movie. That is still the movie I credit. I got into AC/DC after that. Like that's kind of
That's a
and
fucking beautiful movie. I don't care who says it. That
oh yeah,
School of Rock is peak.
it's a perfect film. And that along with my mom got me into good music, but so that's really all I had as far as like, exposure to real rock and roll aside from my mom showing me songs on the radio. And one year I went on a ski trip. I think it was with my youth group, my church youth group, and I can't remember. It was either with my church youth group or my Christian school 6th grade class. I can never remember which one, but either way, I'm going up there with, some Christian adults and a group of kids at some Christian thing.
Right.
And where we were staying there was this old guy that was friends with either the church or the school teacher. And he basically had these lodges. It was like 3 or 4 buildings with, lodges, up by the ski resort. Boys would stay in one, girls would stay in the other. We get into our lodge and everyone's like, okay, go pick your bed. Like, just boys go get whatever bed you want. I picked a particular bed upstairs, and under the pillow was Slash's autobiography. And inside it said, like, Merry Christmas, Jenny, love, Lou. Like someone left it there.
Right.
But I found it, and for some reason, I just looked at, I've got no idea who Guns N' Roses is. I don't know who Slash is. I don't know what heroin is. Like, I was just like, I'm gonna read this book while I'm here because I'm here for a week, and I found this book, and I was just like fucking mesmerized. I finished it in like a week, and like my life was changed. I was like, I have to play guitar, I have to do drugs. Like that book is probably what fucked me up for like, what that's probably why I decided, oh, you need to get fucked up when you play music. Because as a 6th grade Christian school kid, I found Slash's autobiography. But I only thought of that because the leather pants. There's a part in that book where Slash says leather pants are great if you get blackout drunk because when you piss yourself, it all just slides down out of the pants. And that part always stuck with me. I need to reread that book sometime. It's a really good book. Oh, fucking A, dude. I can never wear leather pants nowadays, though.
I mean, that's at least you can admit it. There are people out there that can't admit it that still do, and they're like 50s and their
Yeah.
60s, and it's like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Yeah, I'm pretty much a jeans guy. Cargo pants too. Jeans and cargo pants for me nowadays.
I'm always usually rocking jeans or a t-shirt.
Yeah.
That's all I need.
Yeah, it's real simple nowadays. I used to dress the stuff I used to wear back then when I was like priority was how I looked over you know, how comfortable I was. It's just terrible. A lot of really really tight jeans that I could barely bend my knees in, but I just dealt with it for the look. All right. Fucking A. We got 2 hours and 10 minutes. I'm gonna call it here if you're down.
Yeah, no, we you know where to find me if you want to keep up these kind of conversations, man.
I'm super down to do this again.
Same here.
Yeah, no, next time I figure we'll always have something music to talk about.
We can talk about whatever you want, man. Like I'm down for whatever.
Oh no, I know. I like having someone to talk about. I used to have a co-host on here, and the main reason I got him on was to talk about anything, but he was really into 1980s rock and roll and stuff. He lived in LA. And that was kind of the
Makes
main
sense.
purpose I had him around, but it turned out that I fucking hated him, and so, I booted him from the stream. But I actually like you, and I grew up with you, so it makes it even more interesting. You know, sometimes, I'll still call him Dixon Cider because I'm loyal to the screen names on the channel, but, you know him too, but
Oh yeah.
we like to talk about hometown lore, so I like people that I can talk about some hometown lore every once in a
Oh,
while with
if you
too.
got anything like that, throw it my way, and I guarantee I'll probably know about it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But yeah, fucking A. Yeah, no, definitely. We'll have to talk soon and figure out the next time we're gonna do this again. Because yeah, this is a good time. These 2 hours went by.
Oh, I know, man. I appreciate you for having me on.
Oh yeah, of course, dude. I'm always down to talk to anyone. Let me see. Get lit. You've been the one who's been in the chat the longest. You are the ultimate survivor. I know at one point, Pock stopped by. I don't know if you're even still here. Pock, you came over from Casper's channel, I think. If I'm correct about that, I appreciate you coming over here. Um, good times, good times. There's been some people lurking in the shadows who have not been in chat. Whoever you guys are, thanks for hanging out. Dude, I forgot to mention I do have an outro. As soon as the outro hits, you can take off, basically. It's just like a 30-second outro with a song. Once that starts, you're good to go.
Hell yeah, man. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, hell yeah, man. Thank you for coming on. Good times, good times.
Can't wait for the next time.
Right on, right on.
And we're all here today to groove and have a beautiful time together, and that it's only the beginning.
Sometimes I think I'm drunk and then I realize I am drunk. Sometimes I think I'm drunk and then I realize